So over a month ago, myself and my father went out on a bit of an epic cycling adventure. This was the first sort of long distance cycling adventure of this type for me. But in essence what it was, my father, an avid ultra endurance cyclist who's done many AUDAX cycles in the past, 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers, 400 kilometers, has really wanted to have a summer challenge. And whenever he started to describe this and it started to come up at the dinner table, my interest really was piqued. So I decided I would get involved. But in essence what it was we decided that we would leave our cottage in South Mayo, cycle down to the Wild Atlantic Way, and then hit all of the signature waypoints on the Wild Atlantic Way in Mayo, in Galway and Mayo. So when it was put into a route planning app, it was about 420 kilometers. We decided that we would do it spread over 2 days. So that would involve a little bit of sleeping rough or wild camping. But obviously gear was of an absolute minimum. So it was more so sleeping rough for a couple of hours. But I'll tell you more about that in a second. So adventure nowadays is such a broad term. It's such an overused word. It means everything from late night donut trips to Blanchardstown all the way to summiting an 8,000 meter peak. However, what this video is about really, for me, felt like an adventure. It was the first time I've done anything like this. And it really was a bit of an epic experience. So let's dive into it.
The first few hours of the cycle went well.
Wow.
We were on very familiar roads to both of us as we pedalled south along the shores of the Mirror Cam Loch Nafooey down to Mam Cross.
So we're about 15 kilometers in, just 1.5, about half an hour. Moving well, legs are a little bit tired to be honest, but just coming to terms with not only that this is going to be like quite a physical challenge, but also the fact that this is really important, I suppose personally, but flies fecking everywhere.
We surpassed 100 kilometers with relative ease before the 4-hour mark, up on schedule. Arriving at Derrygumla, we took a few minutes to read the historical significance of this site. In June 1919, the first transatlantic flight took place. 2 British aviators, John Alcock and Arthur Brown, left Newfoundland aboard their modified Army bomber plane and flew across the mighty ocean in just over 16 hours. They touched down at 8:40 a.m, not far from their intended landing spot, which was incredibly impressive, given that their navigational tools had iced up in a snowstorm that they had to endure during the night. We turned off the main road shortly after Clifton and spent a glorious few hours on the beautiful, quiet coastal roads north of Letterfrack. As we approached the Mirror Cam Loch Fee, we could see the mighty Mulray, the tallest mountain in the province, just getting out of her bed of cloud, which had kept her hidden all morning. A few short pedal strokes later, we were approaching the Silver Bullet at Dulach. A much-deserved panini and flat white was ordered and promptly consumed. 5 hours, 22 minutes and 145 kilometres in. A good cycle in its own right. There's something odd that happens in the mind when you set out for a long cycle. If, of a Saturday morning, I set out with the intention of cycling 160 kilometres, it would feel long. Admittedly, 6 hours of cycling is long. However, on the same Saturday morning, if I decided to do 260 kilometres, I would perhaps acknowledge the 160 kilometre milestone with a glance at my Garmin, or maybe a brief coffee stop before continuing to pedal. The intention one brings to a workout completely dictates your mental state throughout. If I decided at the outset that I'm going to complete the 260 kilometre cycle, the 160 kilometre mark is nothing but that, a mark on the journey to 260. Intention is essential. Departing the beloved Bullet, we continued north on increasingly unfamiliar roads for me.
Go on, lads.
It was starting to feel real.
Or lassies.
We tipped along nicely through Louisburg. The roads got busier as the sun came out to play. By the time we were passing the Murrisk Croagh car park, we were in shorts and jersey, grateful for the sun cream we had applied optimistically at 6 a.m. that morning.
That's nice.
Keene Bay, I'll be back to swimming you, but the amount of flies about here, my goodness. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue. Thank you. Hopefully it's not an issue whenever we're trying to sleep tonight, but can't deny that it's bloody lovely.
So that's 11 hours now, 290k. It's 8:30 in the evening. I'm a little bit spacey, so it's 8:30 in the evening. The shop in Mulranny closed at 9, but I'm just entering Mulranny now. Dad's just a little bit further back. Oh man, I motored because I could not foresee the prospect of not getting food this evening. Like, I am quite the hungry boy, but we're just entering now.
We arrived at the Coast Cutters in Mulranny at 8:45 p.m, 15 minutes before they're going to close for the night. Oh my, that's a very nice looking pile there now. As we made our way through our dinner, we began scanning the surroundings for a place to sleep for a few hours. After not much deliberation, we agreed upon 2 benches beside the petrol station on the main street. It was now nearing 10:30 p.m. We had cycled 295 kilometres that day. We had 130 kilometres to do the next day before 8:30 a.m. Alarms were set for 1:45 a.m. Before we knew it, we were awake. Quite a restless few hours, but we both managed to get a bit of sleep. It seemed almost funny that we were getting up just as the town had silenced. A few distant and not so distant parties, gatherings and cars kept sleep at bay for much of the night. I don't know, I think I'm more of a banana mood. Hard to tell. We immediately felt the cold bite of the air through our layers, an unfamiliar feeling after months of warm weather riding. Sure, what else did you be doing? The The kilometres that followed were slower, colder, quieter than the hundreds that preceded them. Arriving at Downpatrick Head, we knew the routine by now. Bikes propped against the Wild Atlantic Way sign, a photo of the bikes, a photo of us, a few calories, job done. We spun off and made it about 300 metres before I dropped my banana skin on the road. I stopped, looked around, and as Dad was picking it up, I noticed a school of dolphins playing in the surf.
You don't know where they're going to pop up.
We stopped and gave them about 5 minutes of our attention. I never recalled seeing dolphins prior to this. Going into this trip, I was conscious that it had the potential to be quite a meaningful trip for the relationship between my dad and me. On a kayak paddle on Loch Mass, the day prior to the trip, I was thinking of all the ways I could optimise the experience. I could leave my phone at home. I could write out a series of deep questions that I would no doubt get the opportunity to ask as we pedalled. I could, and that's when it hit me. Is it not better to simply acknowledge that this trip is meaningful and be fully present for it, instead of having my desire to optimize it be a distraction to the experience? To be present is to be happy.